who are celebrating, I wish you a very happy International Women's Day. But by the same token, and I really hate to ask this query, in the uber woke year of 2023, what is a woman? That used to be such an easy question once upon a time when there were two sexes as opposed to, 128 genders. Or is it 184? It keeps increasing like inflation and the interest rates. In fact, a new gender was just invented the other day. Here, check it out.
So trigender and the way you identify in it can be very heavily based on your culture and your cultural background. There's man on one side, woman on the other, and non-binary is somewhere in the middle. And then I take up that whole area, the whole bar there.
You know what? I think I'm going to hit the bar after work. In the meantime, I'll check to see if the circus is in town. Anyway, in glorious yesterdecade, you were simply a male or a female. Why am I speaking in the past tense here? For that is still the case today. It's not subjective, rather it's science. There are only males and females. It boils down to X and Y chromosomes. Biology 101, case closed. Even if you happen to currently identify as a pansexual, gender fluid spirit unicorn with daddy issues, deep down you are still either a male or a female. And if I have offended anyone's soy-based sensibilities, hey, feel free to sue me. But back to International Women's Day. I was just a kid back in the late 60s and early 70s when the women's liberation movement was quite the thing. And really, there were legitimate battles to be fought by the sisterhood back then, such as receiving equal pay for equal work. I mean, who would possibly argue against that demand unless, of course, you identified as a male chauvinist pig? I must say, though, I never did once witness a woman back then burning her bra. So I think that might be an urban legend. Besides, if a gal were to do that today, she'd be condemned in certain realms for unnecessarily increasing her carbon footprint.
How dare you?
Anyway, how odd is it that just a few decades later, the women's liberation movement is seemingly passé? In fact, you could argue that what we're witnessing today is an all-out war on women, which is to say, real women. Just look at what has occurred in the past several years thanks to biological men who are either mentally ill or gaming the system, or maybe it's a combination of the two factors. Anyways, a man today merely has to say that he identifies as female, and hey, Bob's your uncle, or Bob's your aunt, as the case may be, because he is instantly granted admission to Club Femme. Case in point, the wide woke world of sports where mediocre male athletes become champion female athletes overnight thanks to their inherent biological advantages. A loser of a lad merely has to say, hey, I'm a chick, and our sniveling society will deem him to be female, even if such a specimen is sporting a beard and his wedding tackle is still firmly affixed.
Please. I scare easy.
Indeed, folks, had I told you, say, 10 years ago, no, make that 5 years ago, that a newly appointed female U.S. Supreme Court judge would be unable to define what a woman is, would you have believed me? Or would you have urged that I seek psychiatric treatment ASAP? And yet, here we are. Check out what happened last year during hour 13 of the confirmation hearing for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson when Senator Marsha Blackburn asked the Supreme Court nominee to define the word woman. Ooh, was that some sort of a trick question or something?
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
The meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
I wonder if Judge Brown Jackson is celebrating International Women's Day today, or is she still researching what a woman is? You heard it yourself. She's a judge, not a biologist. Good grief, is she channeling Star Trek's Dr. McCoy here?
I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
I'm a surgeon, not a psychiatrist.
I'm a doctor, not an escalator. Spock, give me a hand.
I'm a doctor, not a mechanic.
I'm a doctor, not an engineer. I'm a doctor, not a coal miner.
I'm a journalist, not an astrophysicist, but even a dummy like me knows that if I were to jump off the roof of a skyscraper, I'm going to instantly plummet to the sidewalk and perish. I think it has something to do with gravity. Anyway, just imagine having your judicial fate decided by the wacky woke weirdo that is Judge Brown Jackson. I mean, call me harsh, but if a judge cannot define what a woman is, I don't think she should be presiding over a small claims court, let alone the U.S. Supreme Court. But from the justice system to the political world, check out this brief interview I had with Sherry Novo a few years ago. She's a former NDP MPP and currently a minister with the withering United Church. I'm absolutely certain she'd proclaim to be a feminist. But there she was outside a downtown Toronto public library trying to cancel a speech by Meghan Murphy. Murphy is a feminist who was in Toronto to deliver a speech on gender identity and its legislative ramifications. But the alphabet soup community was not happy about that. They wanted to deplatform Murphy, who they referred to as a TERF. That's a derogatory descriptor which stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. Anyway, here's the parliamentarian de Novo in all her glory.
And you support censorship and deplatforming?
I support trans rights, and I'm not speaking to you. Trans rights are human rights. Just repeat that. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights.
You obviously disagree with Ms. Murphy, but why not have a debate? Why not have a discussion? Why shut somebody down?
Because we have hate speech in this country. We know what hate speech is.
Amazing. You try to have a civil discussion with a former member of the provincial parliament, and all you get is the trans rights are human rights shtick. I tried to speak with some of the other demonstrators that day to get their side of the story. Predictably, didn't go well.
How about yourself, sir? Can you explain what your sign means? This is free speech that is bigotry. F*** off. That's all you have to say? You can't articulate your point? Oh, okay then. Well, I can understand that you are a pro-censor and a pro-deplatformer, but...
I'm pro-punching you in the mouth is what I am.
Oh, so violence too.
Hate speech isn't free! Hate speech isn't free! Hate speech isn't free! You're very welcome!
Do you guys want to weigh in, or what's up? Can you articulate why you're here tonight? I think it's supposed to be vertical, isn't it?
Why is it that the members of the Love Trumps Hate community are always so profane and so ready to get violent? Weird. But the message was clear. They believe trans women are real women. And if you have a problem with pretend women, then you are a bigot and a hater and a transphobe, even though the true victims of this perverse philosophy are indeed real biological women when it comes to everything from female sports to female incarceration. But that's the thing. The inmates are running the asylum, and very few people in the public realm will take a stance against transanity.
That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. You know, we rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.